I'm Caleb Templin.
And I'm Ben Hodge.
I'm Garen Bott.
And we make up the Volunteer Conquest.
And now moving on to Tennessee baseball.
It was a great season that we had. It was uneventful ending, you know. What do you have to say about it, Garen?
Well, I'm just really excited to see that the fan base is understanding that we have more than one sport, really. Mm-hmm. Because, when you focus on football and have a disappointment from that for as long as we've been alive, at least we have baseball and now even basketball. But yeah, baseball is really the main thing that we're having right now, especially keeping Tony Vitello. Loser State wasn't able to get him, so they can just deal with that if they want to, as we're going to destroy them for the next 20 years.
I cannot lie. Loser State, their coaching hire was not that bad, but they missed out on Cliff Godwin and Tony Vitello to hire Jay Johnson. So, I think LSU is going to be in a really bad spot, and LSU fans just don't realize it.
If I'm not mistaken, was Tony Vitello reached out?
Yeah.
They reached out to him and he declined the job.
They offered him the job and he declined.
Because Vitello said that he wasn't going to leave the school that gave him his first shot. And that was the good thing I liked about it, to where he's like, no, I'm staying here.
And that's why I liked him talking about the culture and, what we've really built here. And, he was wearing that shirt that said loyalty on it. That's when I kind of had an inkling that he was going to stay around.
Yeah. I mean, and the fact that after Tennessee lifted all the COVID protocols and everything, we had 100% full capacity for the Arkansas game.
That place was rocking.
And just moving forward to even whenever they had to have a block party outside, and understand that those were just the regionals, but it was great to see, because I drove down there in downtown. Fantastic to see, with just the big setup with everyone lined up right next to the training facilities next door.
Now the team is going to look a lot different next year.
Yeah,
it's going to look a lot different, but we do have a top 5 recruiting class coming in.
We have the number 1 player in the nation, Brady House. He plays like Mike Trout, but he's playing shortstop. He's very fast. He has a really good bat. He has a lot of pop to his bat. Then another guy that I want to talk about in the class off my head is Christian Moore. He is coming in. He's only around 5'11", 170, but he's a pitcher. And he was clocked at around a 91 mile per hour fastball the last time he was tested. And that was 2 years ago.
Jeez, just 2 years ago, too.
And you've got Blake Tidwell coming back as a sophomore who's going to hit 100 next year. He hit 99 on his fastball this year. But
and that's a great thing to have, is the fact that we were the third seed. No, the second seed. In
the third national seed.
Yeah. Third national seed in the whole College World Series. And yeah, we lost, but let's be honest. I wasn't really expecting us
We got a really unlucky draw with Virginia's pitcher, I think, because he's one of the best pitchers in the country.
And but it's just great that we have all the young kids coming back, and with Vitello just winning Coach of the Year, if you're a player that still feels that you need to work on your game before you can make it into the farm leagues and the majors, or even the majors, going to play for Coach of the Year, and a coach that was able to dominate every other team that he basically went up against, at least coaching wise, it's great to just be able to use that card on the recruiting trail for
And
baseball.
He's done this with mainly 2 and 3 stars.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest story out here is Evan Russell. Evan Russell has said that he wants to come back to play for Tennessee. And his story is amazing. He came on as a walk-on. No, wasn't rated at all, had 0 offers. And he's one of our best players.
And they did that story on him where they were in the state tournament in Tennessee, and he ended up going 18 for 21 while Dave Serrano was scouting him. So that's kind of how he got on Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely going to help.
I think he smacked like 5 homers, too, in the tournament.
Yeah, that seems like a basic day of work for
all of us. That's just basic day in Evan Russell.
But really, just a fantastic season for the baseball team, and there weren't really any flaws that you could see in the team. Because even from the beginning of the season to now, they just kept getting better.
Mm-hmm.
You never saw any signs of dippage, but the only issue was just they couldn't win the big games. But I'm sure next year, because now they've been in that moment, playing Arkansas.
And even in the regional and super regional, this collection of kids has never been in that moment, yet they stepped up to the plate and they were able to compete.
Yeah.
And the last thing we're going to say about this, about all the fans, there's a nice amount of fans that I've seen on Twitter, on Instagram, that are complaining that we didn't move farther. This team is a team full of not even 2 and 3 stars, like 2 stars and 2 4 stars. We should have been nowhere near where we are at right now.
We should have been good this year, but we shouldn't have been this good.
Especially after 2019.
This fast.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I would honestly say this is the best team since the Todd Helton days.
Probably.
No, it is. It definitely is. You can't say probably. A team that's able to make it all the way to the College World Series like that.
It's definitely the best team since the 05 World Series.
For sure.
And Vitello did it in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
From looking at the guys we got.
So that means he got his own team to do it too. Sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, it's his own team. And
Either way, highly impressive.
Yeah. The NCAA, we can just be straightforward. They've done something ridiculous with what they did to NC State in the College World Series. There should be no reason why when one player tests positive for COVID, after I believe most of the team has already gotten the vaccine, no reason why the game should not be played or why a team should miss out. So Vanderbilt is moving on to the championship game to face rather Texas or Mississippi State. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I personally think it's probably the most messed up thing I've seen in baseball so far. Like, you can't... Like, there's been a bunch of games that's been moved back between all sports. Like, why can't you just do that? Like, there's plenty of time from when baseball to football starts. We have months. So I thought the game should have just been moved back.
And my thing is, because they had to pull more players out for a game today than with their 13 players yesterday. So my thing is, Vanderbilt was around those players yesterday. Why doesn't Vanderbilt have to go through any protocols? So, like you said, if this was the college football playoff or if this was March Madness, they would have just postponed the game. They wouldn't have canceled it.
Well, in March Madness, they did have that VCU Oregon game, I believe, where they...
But that was early round where it was... They had to get the games done so quick.
Yeah.
In that case, it makes sense. But, I mean, this is like...
This is the Final Four. This is the final... Yeah. So I get where you're going with there. But, yeah, just the NCAA, they can get their stuff together. I mean, we can't really do anything about it. But I'm not going to lie, I was cheering for NC State, especially with the story that they were having. It's going to be fantastic. But thank you, NCAA, for making college sports terrible and ruining it for all of us. On the topic of baseball, we're going to move to the major leagues here. For us, the Bravos are our team, the Braves. Last night, they had a win of 3-2. Will Smith came in, got the save there. Phenomenal job from... We've had a great bullpen recently. Well, not great. It's been good enough for us.
Been much better.
Definitely. The Braves, if they can win today or tomorrow, they'll be able to split the series with the Reds. And I'd love to see them get to 3. And before the All-Star break, which will be mid-July, I would love to see them get to 500. If the Braves could get to 500 by then at the end of July, we'll be able to see if the Braves are who they say they are, which is they've just started off cold and they'll warm up. But what are your guys' thoughts on the Braves, at least so far right now?
Well, I thought Will Smith did a good job last night closing it out. Got really sticky in there with A.J. Minter, which it usually does. But he was able to get out of the inning. I believe he had a runner on second with no outs. But I was happy with our performance last night. And, Ronald Acuna came back from, I believe it was back tightness. And anytime you see that in a young player, you kind of hold your breath. But, I mean, he didn't hit very well last night, but he swung the bat well. He looked incredible in the field. And you saw, when the Reds would get on second base on a double or a single, they were not daring Acuna whatsoever. Because, his arm is it's lethal.
The best outfielder, at least yesterday, was Heredia. great. The first out, the bottom of the 9th inning,
and hit a solo shot.
He was willing to risk his entire rib cage to get that ball. Phenomenal job there. But I'm going to move on to another team in the NL East, which was the Phillies and Aaron Nola, which I'm going to let Ben talk about that. So
he pitched 5 1/3 innings, 12 strikeouts, 10 Ks in a row. I mean,
yeah,
he's been on fire recently.
It ties a 51-year record, and the NL East right now, it's kind of warming up for all 5 teams except for the Mets. It's really weird to see the Mets have the best pitcher in the league right now.
It's strange because Lindor has started to heat up as of recently, but their team has started to take a dip.
Yeah, and whenever the Braves are able to split the series, which splitting a series but whenever the Braves were able to split the series with the Mets, I kind of felt good about that because we've struggled against the Mets. But
I think the best I've seen the Braves perform this year was when we beat the Dodgers in the series at home, and Max Fried pitched phenomenal.
And that showed that we could win clutch games because that felt like a playoff atmosphere, even though we were only 50,
and
60
we honestly could have
season.
swept that series had Sean Newcomb not completely thrown Game 2. But
yeah, Sean Newcomb, he's had his ups and downs all year. Our bullpen's had its ups and downs all year.
I can't wait for my guy Touki Toussaint to get back up here and start dealing out of the bullpen. But
yeah, with all your cards that you bought from Touki.
I invested in Touki. I did.
Another number from yesterday was, I think it's Ben's favorite player now.
Favorite player not on the Braves.
Not on the Braves, Fernando Tatis Jr.
Love Fernando.
Had 3 home runs yesterday, which is
in 4 innings.
Phenomenal. Went 4 for 4 through 7 innings. I'm not sure how he did in his last at bat, or even.
I think they honestly set him after that because
I would.
He announced yesterday that he would not be participating in the home run derby. I believe it was either shoulder soreness or hip soreness, whatever the case may be. But stud. He's an absolute stud.
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch many pro league games this season, but after that game last night, there's no more talks about Fernando Tatis not being the best shortstop in the MLB. You can't.
It's not even particularly close. I mean, you've got guys like Xander Bogaerts has had a phenomenal year. But I mean, other guys that you think of like Corey Seager, I mean, he can't stay healthy, and then Lindor hasn't been able to hit at the level that he's capable of.
I don't know if you guys have seen any of the All-Star voting. First base, obviously, Freddie Freeman hasn't done well this year.
I think he's still only hitting 240, but I mean, he's picked it up lately.
He's picked it up, but I mean, understandably, he's not doing well. Ozzie Albies,
Muncy is obviously the first baseman for the NL.
Ozzie Albies, he's leading, and he's leading at second base.
Honestly, a guy that could have a 2020 season easily.
And then in center field, we have obviously Ron Acuna Jr., but over at third, I'm a little upset. Because
Austin Riley
is not leading at all, and I understand that he took a little dip recently, but his glove over at third should make up for that.
He made a game tying stop last night because Contreras, I believe it was India, was stealing from second.
He clutched up against the Mets too.
Yeah, but Contreras threw a little short hopper to third, and Riley was able to kind of stab it before it passed him. That was a rough catch, but he's just been great for us all year.
Yeah, and I was looking at the scorecard for tomorrow for tonight. Ian Anderson is starting for the Braves, and he's
been by far our best starter
for sure. I mean,
Charlie Morton has been insane too, but Ian Anderson, I mean,
he was
crazy good last year, and this is his real rookie year. And he's just been a stud.
Yeah, and he was 10th on the Major League top 25 players under 25. We had him. We had Ozzie Albies, Acuna Jr. and
Ian
Anderson on that. I think.
And Pache, had he not been injured, would have been on there just strictly for his defense.
Yeah, but the majors. Speaking of top players under 25, I'll let you take this one because you said you wanted to fill this one, but. Would you like to talk about the new prospect for the Devil Rays?
Wander Franco. He's going to be a stud. Came up in his first game. I believe it was against the Red Sox. And I think Rodriguez was pitching. It was a lefty. Wander Franco, switch hitter. First at bat, went down 0-2, and then came back, took a walk for his first at bat. Second at bat, well, actually, after the walk, he scored on an RBI double. And he actually batted second behind Randy Arozarena, which I was surprised by, that he was that high in the order in his debut. But, he grounded out, I think, in his second at bat. It was either ground out or fly out. And his third at bat hits a nuke to left field. And, everybody's just going nuts.
July 18th is when me and some of our friends are going down to Atlanta, and we picked a good game to go to. We're gonna be right behind the left field wall, and we're gonna be able to see the Rays and the Braves play, and that's gonna be phenomenal because both teams at that point, the Rays are still trying to fight for the AL East.
And they've actually skidded recently. They had, I believe, like a 43-24 record, and now they're 43-31, I believe, somewhere around there.
So just the majors so far for everyone's been good. There was a no-hitter thrown by the Cubs 2 nights ago
As a group,
and that's the most no-hitters through a certain point in history. I think it's 7 no-hitters now.
7 right now,
and
that's 6 were by a single pitcher.
And that's the most in history for the entire forever in major leagues, at least to this point in the season. So I'm glad to see the major leagues are taking some type of stance on the foreign substances. We've seen some gaffes about that with a few players.
Yeah, where they.
I don't have a problem with you trying to limit cheating, right? We want a fair playing field. But they told the pitchers, we're not going to change any rules or we're not going to enforce until after the season. Well, you can't just come in mid-season and change something. Because, the rule has always been there. It's just never been enforced. It's always been in the rule book. But, now you've got it to where guys can't use sunscreen and rosin. Like, come on now. You're telling guys they can't wear sunscreen now. And I know y'all saw that video of Trevor Bauer where it was literally just sweat and rosin and the ball was sticking to his hand, just sitting there.
And Max Scherzer, I believe, was checked 3 times in a game.
Now, Sergio Romo basically threw a tantrum, which you're Sergio Romo. You don't have a right to throw a tantrum. Your ERA is like 6. But, he took his hat off, slammed it down. He took his belt off, threw it at the ump. But Max Scherzer, I think he had a right to get mad because, the Phillies manager was just out of control at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And, I can understand where Max Scherzer's coming from there.
Because
the manager was like, oh, he's never wiped his hair like that. Like, how do you know that?
No offense to Max Scherzer, but he has a bald spot on his head right here.
He does kind of have a bald spot.
It's just, it's ridiculous, but I am wondering how the second half of the season is going to be, at least for the hitter standpoint.
I think it's been a weird year overall because they changed the baseballs too. So
which they typically always doctor the ball a different way every year, but I'm sure this year you're going to see certain players get out of slumps that they're in, like Freddie Freeman. Ronald Acuna Jr., he's going 40 for 40 this year. He already has 20 in both categories, I believe, and we're not even halfway through the season.
He said, I believe, 3 games this year where the score has been 1-0 Braves, and it was Ronald Acuna that was the only
and
run
2
scored
in the past week. Against
the Mets when off Otako. And I loved what he did there when he was rounding second, and he put his hand up to his ear, and the boos just got louder. I love Ronald Acuna.
You see, with us, we can appreciate every team, but obviously we hate most every team in the NL East and the Dodgers as well, because that's just what we do.
And it's strange because I can't stand the Dodgers, but I like a lot of the Dodgers players. I like Mookie, Tennessee signee.
Technically never decommitted from Tennessee.
Technically never decommitted to Tennessee, so he's a VFL. But I like Cody Bellinger too, but the dude just can't stay healthy. And I love Trevor Bauer.
Bauer, he's phenomenal.
He's insane.
Bellinger's one of my favorite players.
And then Walker Buehler can absolutely deal. And then Clayton Kershaw is one of the best pitchers of this era.
Yeah, but yeah, the MLB. I really think
I like this year. It seems like a lot more people like this is the first year where I've not just been invested in the Braves, probably since I was 8 years old, where I'm invested in the league as a whole. Like last year I wouldn't have sat down to watch Astros Mariners.
And I will give.
But I sat down to watch that the other day.
And this is like all credit to the major leagues, Sony and San Diego Studios for actually wanting to let more people play the show, because I'm not gonna lie, RBI Baseball, horrible game.
It was horrible. It was
I played, I think, 2019, trash, and the show has always been one of my favorite games. I still had the one from 2016. I'm on PS3, but the show is the reason why I believe a lot of people are now invested into baseball again, because you see all these big names, and now especially with the MLB having such a big presence on TikTok,
and there's so many
Instagram,
young
and Twitter.
marketable stars in the MLB now. You know, there's Vlad Guerrero, Ronald Acuna, Fernando Tatis. I mean, just young studs all over the place, and it's easy to draw
fun
fans.
to watch.
And you have a sport that lasts for 8 months out of the year. Like if you're able to watch it almost every single day, every single year, you should be able to draw on an aspect. And the fact that the league isn't having to deal with a roid issue or the fact that people are only going to watch home runs and stuff. I mean, yeah, that's a big part of the game. But like Shohei Ohtani coming in 2 years.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen
phenomenal.
I don't think I've ever seen a dude do what Shohei Ohtani can do. I mean, the dude steps he throws gas. He throws 100.
One of the best pitchers in the league.
Exactly, and he hits nukes. Like he goes yard like almost every game. In the past week and a half, he's had, I think, 7 home runs.
And his body build is perfect for both of what he does.
I did see an idea, though. I can't remember the TikTok user that posted this. I think it was just I think the @ is like just baseball guys or something like that. But I agree with this 100%. Let Shohei Ohtani play left field for the first 7 innings and then bring him in as a closer. Can you imagine him pumping 100 in the closer spot in the 8th and 9th inning? That would be ridiculous.
I mean, that's smart. I mean, I think that even with Shohei, he'd want to be more of a starting pitcher, especially with how durable he is throughout the entire game. He's just able to, because they could probably pitch him and move him to left field. I wouldn't be shocked if because he has to be in the All-Star game. Is he?
He's got to be. I mean,
I haven't checked
he honestly
the voting
might
recently.
be leading in votes at this point.
Think about how good
just
that
imagine
field would be, though.
Just imagine the All-Star game. They have him in left field and bring him in the 5th inning. Like
that would be ridiculous.
The AL would win.
And the fact that he's doing the home run derby, I think, is amazing.
Yeah, it's just I enjoy the fact that we have players that are willing to do the home run derby, but then again, you like Fernando Tatis Jr. He has a home run derby every single time he steps up to the bat.
Yeah, his regular season is his home run derby.
He's fine. But I mean, like, just being able to see a pitcher do the home run derby,
that's insane.
That just says everything about this whole season already. A pitcher doing the home run derby.
And I love that players are finally like, they look like they're having fun. Because, I mean, this was a while ago, but Yerman Mercedes hitting, home run on a 3-0 count when they were up by like 11 or 9, whatever it was.
Yeah,
I love to see that. I like that. I don't want to see, somebody walk or strike out or ground out. I want to see a home run hit. If you haven't forfeit the game yet, I'm still trying to score runs.
About the respect.
Exactly.
Thing.
And the respect thing is not bunting every single time, which no one does. But I really think that more of a respect is hey, we should score more runs because they might come back. Now, like whenever the Braves won 20-1 against the Pirates.
Yeah. 20 to 1.
It was 20-1 against the Pirates, and whenever Ronald went up to bat lefty, I didn't like that. I didn't, and Snit said, "No, what are you doing?" Because he was going up there, he was going to bat lefty.
Yeah.
But that's more of like not being sportsmanship. It's more of just being, just let me do what I want because you guys are trash.
And in my opinion, sportsmanship is competing at the highest level 100% of the time. Yeah. So if you're, I don't care if you're throwing a position player on the mound that never pitches, why should you be worried about his ERA? It's not going to matter. He's a position player.
Yeah, like how the Cubs brought in Anthony Rizzo against Freddie Freeman. That was phenomenal.
Fun to watch.
That was phenomenal.
That was fun to watch.
You have two of the best first basemen in the in the past decade.
Most respectable players in the MLB.
And And Freddie's like, yeah, I didn't care. He had a perfect game going in that. He was 4 for 4. He finished 4 for 5 on the game with a strikeout to Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah.
That's just a story to have with you whenever you go into the Hall of Fame.
You know, those are two guys, you know, that came up together. They'll both, I assume, be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done.
Same year. I'm sure that they'd be inducted in the same year. No way they shouldn't.
They both play the same position. You know, they've always
and both play like the same too. Both play the same.
They play very similarly, but yeah, MLB's it's been a joy to watch this year.
Now we're gonna jump into Tennessee football and college football. What do you got to say about it, Ben?
Well, last night, didn't really have anything to do, so I figured, why not watch some more Josh Heupel tape? So I watched their game against Stanford back in 2019. That was back when KJ Costello was still at Stanford. Complete demolishing of Stanford that UCF did. And I watched, a lot of the route concepts that they were running, and I think Gabriel Davis was just an absolute stud in that game, and I think he's a guy that Jalen Hyatt's really comparable to. Absolute speed demon, good route runner, and I think Gabriel Davis was a little bit better with his jump ball ability, but Jalen Hyatt has the advantage with his top end speed.
Yeah, I would compare Gabriel Davis more to a guy like Javonte Payton, who we just got from Mississippi State. He runs in the 4.3s, and he's a really good jump ball guy, and he's also 6'2".
But people have been worried about the offensive line. I'm not worried at all, because watching that tape, Glenn Earby has those guys coached up. And the kinds of schemes that they run, it's really putting the offensive line in the best possible advantage that you can. Because, you're engaged with the guy for no more than 3 seconds. And, if the play's over, play's over.
Yeah.
But if the play's not over, you're right on to that second level. But there's not a lot of opportunities for an offensive lineman to look bad or get beat in this offense.
Yeah, just a disclaimer. We're not like saying Tennessee's about to just go 15
Yeah, we're not going.
We're not. Just to make sure we're not
clear
that
the air
crazy.
on that.
But
I got us going 7-5.
I could see us going
Somewhere between
7-5.
6-6, 7-5.
I can see us going 7-5, possibly 8-4 with an upset to like a team like Florida.
I think for an upset,
I don't
it's
know.
possible.
But
But
I don't know if it's going to happen, but you got to look at how much Florida has lost. Like, they lost Kyle Trask, which is probably their best quarterback since
Shoe thrower.
Yeah, they lost shoe thrower Marco Wilson.
I think that's the most important.
Their
part.
best, really right now, their best quarterback on their roster is Emory Jones, and he probably wouldn't start here.
Emory Jones, highly touted coming out of high school. The kid can run like the wind, but we've never really seen him in an opened up passing offense, and I'm not even really sure if we're going to see it this year. We've just got to see how much trust Dan Mullen has in Emory Jones.
Yeah.
But who knows? Let's see. So let's say you come off a blowout win versus Bowling Green. You come off, let's say, 2 touchdown win over Pitt, which would be impressive.
I think
Pitt
a Pitt win, no matter how it is a good
Pitt has
win.
a good overall program.
Yeah, Pitt's always
a
been
win
good
over
forever.
Pitt, and either way, we know this as Tennessee fans. It doesn't matter how much you win by. When you win, it feels good. But thumping Tennessee Tech. So let's say you go into Florida. I get it's at
2-1,
Gainesville,
3-0, yeah.
but let's say you've got all the confidence in the world. You're 3-0. You feel like you can actually do this. You just never know. Because,
And we finally have a coach.
And we've done it before against Georgia.
We've done
twice,
it.
Twice
We've done
against
it.
Georgia.
We finally have a coach that legitimately cares about the state that Tennessee football is in. He made great hires. Like, he went out and got Willie Martinez back.
And that's another thing. Watching the UCF tape, UCF's DBs, they were good. I believe they had
Aaron Robinson,
I think they had
Tay
3.
Gowan.
I think they had 3 drafted last year.
Yeah, they had 3
during
drafted.
this past draft.
And Tay Gowan, he was picking the 6th round. And it looks like the Cardinals are going to have him as a number 2 safety, number 3. Like, there's no complaining about this staff. There's no complaining about how things are being put together. Now, we have had some transfer news. We have Greg Emerson, who came in as a really, really highly touted defensive lineman. He was a top 100 player.
Had some flashes early, but has never really put it together.
But he has entered the portal. So that's really affecting our defensive line right now. Like, we did take 2 defensive linemen in the transfer portal, but depth is still a major issue.
And not just depth, because you don't just want bodies. You want competitive depth, especially in the SEC. I get, if you're at, no offense to the American Conference, but if you're at an American Conference school, it's not the biggest need to have competitive depth in your front four, but UCF had that. They were able to rotate 12 guys at any given moment on their defensive line,
and that's why
that kept them fresh the entire game.
And we got a much better defensive line coach than what UCF had,
and that's like
probably the best defensive line coach.
And like UCF, they were considered like the best best non-group of 5 team in the country for a while.
Best group of 5 team.
Well, yeah, my bad. But they were able to compete every single year. I mean, other than the fact that they won the national championship in 2017. But
hey, BCS, they would have been ranked number 1.
Yeah, but I mean, UCF, just in general, with what Frost did there, what Heupel's done there, even though you say it's just UCF, but UCF is debatably the best team in the group of 5.
They're right up there with, Cincinnati, Boise State. They've taken a bit of a hit recently.
Oh, yeah, Boise State's taken major hits.
They're still, highly regarded.
Yeah, with fans listening to the UCF chatter about how they made a better hire, no, they didn't. Gus Malzahn.
Not at all. Gus Malzahn.
He has history, but he's not a good coach because his offense does not relate to quarterbacks whatsoever.
That's what an NFL scout said, that his offense is literally the worst that a college quarterback can be put into.
Stidham said that himself as well. So Dylan Gabriel, he had his chance. Heupel wanted him to come with him. He had his chance.
I would have taken Dylan Gabriel. I mean, kid's a stud.
But when he had bad blood for Heupel, that's his own fault. He's not... Right now, with this coach that he has, he's not going to be drafted as an NFL quarterback.
And I think that's another interesting thing that we're talking about. What is Bo Nix going to do this year? Because you got Brian Harsin down there. I assume he's going to be play calling. Don't really know, but I mean,
who is the head coach at Auburn now?
It was Brian Harsin. He was the head coach at Boise State. I believe ever since Chris Peterson left there.
Yeah,
but
I think he's going to let Mike Bobo at least start off calling.
And he was offense coordinator at South Carolina last year, right?
Yeah, honestly, Mike Bobo isn't a bad quarterbacks coach whatsoever. I mean, you could see
he made Colin Hill look like a competent quarterback at times.
You could see what he did
at times, which was an accomplishment in and of itself.
You could see what he did with all the quarterbacks, but Bo Nix, he's pretty much Jarrett Stidham in a simpler version. It's really hard to turn Bo Nix into
It's really hard to turn him into an elite quarterback. And I get, he won SEC Freshman of the Year, whatever. That's bullcrap. All right, Derek Stingley should have won it. But, I mean, quarterbacks always get all the love. Except for this past year. I was happy Devontae Smith won the Heisman. Finally got a position player to win the Heisman.
But in other recruiting news, there's a DB from Alabama. He's sort of been our backup option as of late, but we are still in the lead for him. His name is Brandon Turnage. And after watching some film on him,
he's a stud,
and talking with other friends, he's sort of like what we got out of Rashawn Golden, which is one of the best DBs we've had since...
Another guy that was coached up by Willie Martinez. And that's... I want to give credit to Ben McKee. He used to be with RTI. He's moved on now, over there on the Swain event. But he said that when we hired Willie Martinez, he said, one thing for sure, these DBs are going to be coached up. That's one thing you can't fault about Willie Martinez. They are going to be coached up. He made, Emmanuel Mosley, when he got on campus, he was a scrawny 5'10", 145-pound corner, and he made him a starting SEC cornerback. He made Rashawn Golden kind of look like a budget Isaiah Simmons. He was playing all over the field.
Cameron Sutton came in. He was already really underrated, but he turned Cameron Sutton into one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC. Corner. So that's about all I have to say about our situation right now.
And now for our last segment, we're going to go to some NBA talk. So why don't you start us off, Mr. Nets fan?
Okay, well, I've always been a fan of KD for as long as I've been growing up. Became a Kyrie fan after the 2016 finals.
I think everybody did.
Yeah, so even right now I'm wearing a pair of Kyrie's. So I kind of had to become. Well, I didn't have to, but I just chose to become a Nets fan.
It was an easy route.
And I've always liked KD's shoes. The KD 14s, that they look phenomenal. I'm sure you guys can agree with me on those.
Agreed.
But a part of KD's style is the fact that the toe of the shoe is typically always a little bit longer than other shoes. And that's why the Nets are not in the conference finals.
It really is, though. Like, that shot decided everything. If he's... Because what size does he wear? 17? 18?
Do you think I just know?
If he's a size
I'll
less...
look it up.
If he's a size less, they're in the conference finals, and they're probably up 2-0 on the Hawks right now.
And you know, I'm not going to take any credit away from the Bucks. Because the Bucks...
Giannis played phenomenal.
Yeah, he wears a size 18. So...
Not a Bucks fan, but I like Giannis.
But I mean, he's wearing a shirt right now. You guys can see that.
I just showed it off.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, anyways, but it's just I would have loved to have seen KD be able to get his own ring with his own kind of team because like
and all this talk about KD doesn't have that killer mentality. The dude dropped 48 points and had a 49-point triple-double in a previous game.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, the Nets, I mean, they ended up at home, but at least they had a fighting chance. And I get that, you know, he went, 0 for 6 in the overtime period. The dude played all 53 minutes. At some point, some other player has to step up.
Yeah, because with Kyrie, it was LeBron's ring. He did it for Cleveland.
And did you see that Scottie Pippen tweet? Let me pull it up real quick.
I saw it. To where Scottie Pippen was saying, I just love the fact that KD has owned 3 people this year on Twitter. And KD does not take anything lightly. Scottie Pippen has always been a role player. No offense to Scottie Pippen.
Not a role player, but you know,
he's
always been the Robin.
If Scottie Pippen was on any other team, he would have been the star of the team.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just with the Bulls and everything. Everyone knew their position. Like everyone knew what their job was. Even whenever you have new players come in, players leave. But but this Nets team, it's a lot different than a lot of other teams because all 4 players. Well, no, we have the four main players. You had KD, Kyrie, Harden, and then you had Griffin come in. But those 4 players, they were all stars at one point on their own teams. They were all stars on their own teams before LeBron went to Cleveland. Whenever KD was still in OKC, he was his own star. Whenever Kyrie was with the Celtics,
I mean, Russell Westbrook was a budding superstar, but he wasn't the triple-double Russell Westbrook that we know now. He was still a stud, but I mean, he was clearly the number 2 option to Kevin Durant. Yeah,
and then Griffin in Lob City, which is still one of the best highlight reels you can watch.
You could sit down and watch that for hours.
It's always been fun to watch.
But here's what Scottie said. So Scottie said he added Stephen A. Smith and he added LeBron James. He said LeBron James won a championship without any help. And then he said, 2016 finals, my man. Which other star was out there with LeBron? So I guess Kyrie averaging 27 points a game and 8 assists.
The one that clutched up and made one of the winning shots.
Doggo made an appearance. But one of the clutchest shots in NBA history. I guess he's not, any help. I guess neither is Kevin Love. So I replied to Scottie Pippen. Still haven't heard back from my guy. But guess MJ won all 6 of his titles by himself.
Because
if you use that logic, that's true.
Because that's what Scottie said.
If that's what Scottie thinks, I guess Scottie doesn't think that he was any help to MJ.
And LeBron, he's what? 3 for 8, 3 for 9 when it comes to.
He's like 4 for 8, 4 for 9 in
finals. Yeah, in the finals.
MJ's 6 for 6,
which is pretty good. Being 4 for 8, 4 for 9. That respect, respect all the way.
Respect that you can actually win a finals in the first place.
Yeah, but Yeah, but whenever you were the Robin of the Bulls, which even the Bulls 100 years from now, their best player, which Derrick Rose, no offense, if it weren't for him getting injured, he would probably like be up there with the bigger names.
He would be up there, but I mean,
but it's Michael Jordan. It's Michael Jordan.
No one's ever gonna, I guess, surpass Jordan's aura that he had around his.
It's kind of like
himself.
Yeah,
I guess
really
his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
No one's ever gonna surpass that. I mean, I know you watched Last Dance. That was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And when they landed down in Paris, people in Paris aren't watching the NBA, but yet they're infatuated with this Michael Jordan guy. Everybody knew him.
Like, pretty much, you really can say outside of Scottie Pippen, he did win everything by himself. Because, I mean, got that big
Dennis,
name, Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Dennis was the best front court defender in the NBA at the time.
But he had absolutely zero offensive game.
The only way he really scored his points was offensive boards. And rebounding is very important. But, I mean, the main objective of basketball is to score.
Dennis Rodman was not in the NBA before they signed him. Mm-hmm. He was only brought to the team to be a rebounder.
Well, he was good in Detroit. He wasn't very good in San Antonio. But with the Bulls, I mean, he became... I think a lot of his off-the-court stuff had a lot to do with, him becoming a bigger name. But,
but, I mean, speaking of stars... we can talk about Trae Young.
Dago's going crazy.
And I'm sure that they're going to love hearing that. But Trae Young, in my opinion,
wasn't so icy last night.
He wasn't. I'll give him that. But Trae Young has been, in my opinion, the biggest star out of everything so far.
He's been the biggest surprise.
Yes, because everyone knew that he's fantastic. He sometimes doesn't get clutch. Like last night wasn't clutch at all. No one was clutch for the Hawks last night.
I think the real thing that's pushed him over the edge is him taking on that villain persona.
And I like that.
I tweeted that out.
I like that.
Let me pull up my tweet about that.
I like the fact that he's doing what he wants to do with his team, and he understands that. You're always going to be the villain if you come out of nowhere and want to take over everyone. It's like how the Warriors were the villains whenever they came out of nowhere, and then everyone put LeBron as the savior of the NBA, which I hated that because he built a super team himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kevin Love's the greatest basketball player of all time, in my opinion. But
can't forget Kyle Korver now.
Hey, Larry Bird. But it's just I really think the idea is the fact that the Atlanta Hawks are all smaller name players. Even Trae Young, he's never been the biggest player. He played for Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma. And he wasn't even like the biggest player. I mean, he was, but like going into high school and everything, he wasn't the biggest player and everything. Yeah. And just the fact that even now, it's him and all these other small guys.
John Collins has made himself some money.
Oh, yeah.
In these playoffs because I think he's going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. He's made himself some money, and then Kevin Huerter has come out of nowhere. I mean, he absolutely destroyed the 76ers.
I'm going to have to buy a Huerter jersey, by the way.
But here's what I said about Trae Young. So I did a top 10 players, my top 10 favorite players in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go through the list. I did 1 DeJounte Murray, 2 Keldon Johnson, 3 DeMar DeRozan. I think that's all pretty obvious at me being a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
Then I put Ja Morant.
The GOAT.
LaMelo Ball.
Greatest of all time.
I do love Ja Morant, yeah.
Yeah, so Ja Morant.
I'm a War Grizzlies fan. There we go.
You're a War Grizzlies fan. 5 LaMelo Ball, 6 Kawhi Leonard, 7 Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 8 Giannis.
About LaMelo Ball, I'm tired of everybody hating on LaMelo Ball.
Why is everybody hating on him?
I've seen so many people hate on LaMelo Ball talk about
it's because of his last name.
Anthony Edwards deserved it because he averaged 19 points. But what did Anthony Edwards do?
He didn't. He was great, but he didn't elevate his team.
The Hornets had a chance of making it to the playoffs, even the last month.
And they were a fun team to watch.
Yes, yeah, they
were super fun to watch.
Uh-huh.
But then 8 I put Giannis, 9 I put Jimmy Butler, and 10 I put Trae Young. And here's what I had to say about Trae Young. Have these playoffs moved him up in my rankings? Absolutely. But it's not necessarily because of his play. I've always liked watching him play. I like him because fan bases absolutely despise this man, and he embraces it. I love his villain persona.
Yeah. And
I think that's the best quality about Trae Young right now.
And I think the reason why we all kind of like the villain persona is because Tennessee became kind of a villain as well in baseball.
When Evan Russell said, sorry, go back to baseball. When Evan Russell said that, I got fired up. I was like, yes, be the villain.
But the 76ers, Ben Simmons,
he's got to go.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Game 7 against the Hawks. That is his last game in the 76ers jersey.
He can redeem himself somewhere else.
I think his best case scenario is he goes somewhere like Detroit or somebody where they have absolutely no chance of even sniffing the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Where he can be it's his team, even offensively it's his team, and he can just work on his game and basically do whatever he wants.
Hey, I will be, as a Grizzlies fan, I will be 100% glad to take Ben Simmons as long as we move him to power forward.
Yeah. There's no reason why he should be running any type of guard.
I think a lot of that is
he played guard at
y'all as
LSU.
big men are able to stretch the floor. Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson. Jonas Valanciunas, he's proved his name.
Yeah, Valanciunas is phenomenal.
He's proved his name. He's proved himself. But if we added like another big man that was like a really, really good scorer, guaranteed playoff foul.
But that's the thing about Ben Simmons. He's not a really good scorer.
And
I think here would be the best bet if you can outbuild the Hawks for John Collins and then slide Jaren Jackson to the 5 because Jaren Jackson's such a good defender, and then have him and John Collins running front court. I think that's a good scenario.
That just made me smile.
Maybe happy, maybe smile.
I think the Grizzlies are one. Let's say, I think the Grizzlies are a Bradley Beal away from contending.
No, they are. Because once the Grizzlies are able...
Once John Morant gets a respectable jump shot, he's unstoppable.
Yeah, and once the Grizzlies get that, like, 6th man that they need, like, someone who can come... Because whenever they...
I think Dylan Brooks can be that guy because he got moved into that starting role this year.
Whenever they... because whenever they put the bench out there, it just dies.
I think Desmond Bane can be that 6-man guy.
Yeah, but on the other side, we got to talk about the Western Conference Finals. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure the Suns are probably gonna win it all.
I'm a huge D-Book fan. They're my second team.
We'll see, but I watched that game in its entirety, Game 3. The first game, the Suns just completely dominated.
Mm-hmm.
Clippers should have won the second game. People, crapping on Paul George, whatever. I get that he missed the last 2 free throws. They're not in that position if it wasn't for Paul George. I mean, he had an insane game.
Bubble PG.
That's a bad PG, though. Bubble PG is a good thing for Paul George because he doesn't want to be that anymore. But
that's one of the worst players in the NBA.
So it was a pretty bad player. But Game 3, I mean,
Jeez, dog.
The Clippers' defense was insane. It was like watching. I know you remember 2018-19 Tennessee's basketball defense. It was suffocating. Like, you couldn't get off a shot against them. That's what it felt like against the Clippers. Devin Booker and Chris Paul, I think, combined for maybe 9 of 30 shooting, something like that. And that was another interesting thing coming into the game. Were they going to move Pat Bev onto Chris Paul, or were they going to keep him on Devin Booker? They kept him on Devin Booker, and it worked out tremendously. And Reggie Jackson has also made himself some money. He dropped 23 points.
I think if the Suns when's their next game? Is it tonight or tomorrow night?
I believe it's tonight.
Okay. Which this is on.
I can actually check the time.
It's Saturday, June 26th when we're recording this, so you guys might be wondering what's going on. But I think if the Clippers win tonight, they'll have enough momentum going in.
Tonight at 9.
Yeah, I think if the Clippers can win tonight, then it will probably come down to Game 7.
But it's just like...
If the Suns win, though, it's over.
It's just like when we watched that video of TND. They want to make that story of a Suns-Hawks final,
But the thing about that is it's a good story. Vanderbilt-Texas World Series is
story. That's sort of not very related, but like...
the marketing aspect. That
Yeah.
I see what you're trying to say. Like the marketing of getting because
Well, actually, thinking about it, the marketing aspect favors the Clippers and Bucks because you have two of the highest acclaimed players in the NBA, Giannis and let's say Kawhi comes back. But I think it would be funner to see a Suns
oh yeah, a Suns Hawks
finals.
Which
But just think about this. Even 2 years ago, would you think in your right mind?
I literally
right
tweeted.
now,
I tweeted that last week.
the
I think
Suns
you saw
versus
that.
the Hawks and the
I-
finals.
let me find
That's
the
crazy. Just to think that. Because I think we all knew that the Suns are going to be a menace to society after what they did in the bubble.
yeah.
Because what Devin Booker did in that bubble, I was like,
Yeah, here it is.
okay, whatever he do, it's over.
I said, what if I told you 2 years ago, and I put a picture of Trae Young and Devin Booker. I said, what if I told you 2 years ago that these would be the two. Wait, I worded this very weird. That there would be these two in the Western or in the conference finals in their respective conferences. I think that's insane. Because, I mean, 2 years ago even, the Hawks were a bottom feeder. Same thing with the Suns. And what did we always say about Phoenix? And we thought they did it with Ricky Rubio, but they've got to get Devin Booker a true point guard.
And they did.
Devin Booker can handle the ball, but he's not a true point guard. Now that pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton, it's unguardable.
It's scary.
It's truly scary.
If they put me out there, I would just walk away.
Honestly.
Like CP3, he's now that I really, really look at this, like CP3 is one of the best point guards of all time.
He in my mind is still the most impactful point guard of all time.
He just opens up an offense so much that it's unstoppable. Like, cause he has a really good shot.
Mm-hmm.
He can hit a lane, drive to the rim, but he also has crazy passing mechanics. Like
His vision's ridiculous.
He can not even be looking at you, and he can throw you a dot all the way to the corner.
Yeah, and I think really just the exciting thing is the fact that and this is just all about the entire playoffs, is the fact that it's 1-1 right now in the East. It's 2-1 in the West. All four teams, except for the Bucks, three of the four teams 2 years ago, like you said, who would have thought the Clippers would be going into the finals? Who would have thought the Hawks? Who would have thought the Suns going in? And I mean, even with the Bucks, even because Giannis.
Everybody saw Giannis kind of becoming the player that he is today, but we were always saying, okay, for him to be in that upper echelon, he's got to get Milwaukee there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I loved about him signing that Supermax, because everybody was like, oh, he's going to go to Golden State. He was never going to go to Golden State.
No.
But he could have gone somewhere like Miami. But the fact that he stayed in Milwaukee and it's worked out for him, I really like that about Giannis.
And I think that proves that he's probably just going to stay there.
I think that proves that he's a true superstar, because he's led them this far.
Yeah, and I mean, even in Madden, he's on Superstar KO, so like obviously
He's obviously a stud.
But
I think if it's a Bucks Suns, as much as I stan the Suns, they're my second team. I love Devin Booker. I love CP3.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it's the Bucks versus the Suns, the Bucks are taking it all day.
I think I would take Bucks in 7 because,
I'd take the Suns in 6. I think the Suns would.
The Bucks have Drew Holiday, perimeter stopper on defense.
Chris Middleton.
And Chris Middleton's a very underrated defender. I just don't know who on Phoenix. I get DeAndre Ayton is a good rim protector. He can't guard Giannis.
If the Hawks are as bad as people are saying they are, then I think the Suns win. But if the Hawks are a good enough team to win the finals,
people say the Hawks are bad. How long is it going to take for us to stop saying this?
Yeah,
because they're clearly not. You don't make it this far being bad, Yeah.
Just like how people still calling Tennessee baseball bad. Like, how long are we going
a 50 win team, the most out of any other team?
Yeah.
Trash. But I think we're good on it. We went a little bit longer on this segment, but it was a pretty good segment. So
yeah, I think that'll about do it for today. So I'm Ben Hodge.
I'm Caleb Templin.
I'm Garen Bach, and I didn't slack this time, so I was here.
And thanks y'all for watching Volunteer Conquest.
Peace.
Peace out.